Hey guys, welcome back to Paradise on Pennies. Today, I get the joy of telling you about a little situation that we got into a couple days ago. For those of you who do not know, my wife and I and our 3 rescue dogs have been living on the road for the last 5 years. And pretty much 3 of those years we were in Ford Escape, and the last 2 we have been in our pop-up truck camper here that I'm sitting in right now just to stay out of the wind. And we pretty much live off kind of like public lands and out kind of boondocking as much as possible. So probably about 99% of the time we're out and about. So we get on some pretty crazy roads trying to get away from kind of everything. So in the 5 years we've been on some pretty gnarly ones and never really had any issues. Usually we turn around if we think it's too bad and we just kind of leave because we live in our vehicle. So it's not really worth trying to be macho and getting over these rocks or anything like that. We usually just park and walk or camp wherever we want. So we never really had any issues. We've clunked the bottom a few times, but that's about it. And once the wife yells at you too many times, you learn to drive slower. So now we don't have those issues anymore. So yeah, a couple days ago, we were out camping, and we just took this random side road and went into the canyons and stuff, and it got really narrow really quick, which narrow in canyon country is a lot different than narrow in the forest country, because instead of trees it's rocks, so you really can't do much if it gets too narrow. You have to turn around. And now with the truck camper, it's a little more difficult to turn around. We're a little longer. In the Escape, we could pretty much get out of any situation that we needed to, and then you really can't see well backing up out of this thing. So there's a lot of things that go into getting out of a situation. So we usually tend to err on caution, but it was kind of getting really steep, so we decided, I just kept kind of going, and we're like, hey, well, it'll open up down at the bottom, and it got steep, and then it actually started doing like switchbacks, which was kind of weird for the road, but they were like really short, narrow switchbacks. So we got all the way down it, and then the front of the truck is so big that you really can't see like kind of what's down in front of you. So you either have to get out every single time you see something like a dip or a rock or something, or you just kind of go for it. And so I just seen like a few dips, and I was like, we'll be all right. And it kind of just like dropped off of it. It was just like a little ledge. So I'm like, okay. It kind of shook it a little bit, and we hit 2 of them. And we're like, well, all right, whatever. It really wasn't that big of a deal. It just kind of shook the camper. And then it went over like this huge dip, and I was like, all right, which now having the truck camper, it makes the truck a little longer. So then the dips are a little more harder to get through than actually the rocks and everything. It's more the ruts and the washes and stuff that are hard to get through. So we went up that and we kind of like pinged a little bit. It sounded like the bumper scraped a little bit, and we're like, okay, well, whatever. And we just called it quits after that, and we just parked on. There was a little pull off, so we just parked there, and we're like, that's far enough. And then we walked the rest of the road, and it was a good thing we stopped because the road got really crazy after that. So we're like, all right, well, at least we'll have a spot to turn around and leave if we need to. But so we're down in this valley in the canyon lands, and it wasn't supposed to rain or anything for the next couple days, so I guess it'll be nice. So we went for a walk and then came back, and then I looked, and I was like, our torque lift tie downs, one of them was actually bent. So I was like, well, that's kind of strange. Like, that must have happened on our way down because it hasn't been bent before. And so if you're not familiar, torque lift tie downs are pretty much our brackets that's attached to the camper to hold the camper down onto the truck, and they attach underneath to your frame. If you want to see a video on them, I did it. I'll put the link below. But so they were the only tie downs you get that attach to the frame. So I'm like, oh, these things will be secure. They're beefy, and we've never had an issue with them yet. So then when I saw it, I was like, that looks kind of bent. It looks a little crooked. So I went and looked underneath, and sure, we bent the whole thing. It's supposed to be straight, and we bent it backwards. So we hit something and it like bent it. But I'm like, I don't really remember hitting something that bad. So we're like, okay, well, whatever. It's still welded, and it's still really strong. So I really wasn't too worried about it. But then, so the next day we wake up and we went for a walk, and we saw the clouds coming, and we're like, okay. So we actually had service, and we looked up the weather, and it looked like a lot of rain was coming all of a sudden. So we're like, had to decide if we wanted to stay or go. So we're like, well, I don't want to get stuck down in this canyon with all the switchbacks and all that stuff. So we decided to leave. So we packed up everything quick, put the top down, and started taking out. So now the stair steps that we went down were easy, but now going back up obviously you need a little more oomph, so we're like, all right, our front end was actually scraping on it, which was kind of a pain. So anyways, I just put some rocks down and we made kind of a little ramp to get up. So that was easy. We got over those. And then we got to the big dip. And I'm like, okay, so I was going slow and Heather was out watching, just spotting for me to make sure I didn't run over anything. And I got the front end down and it started going back up, but the whole back end was still like on the down slope. And the whole left side of the torque lift started dragging on the ground, and the road's pretty much just like rock or really cemented hard sand, and so it starts dragging and it's like bending it up more, and I'm like, okay, this is a pain in the butt. So I thought, I was like, I could just go out and dig out a little bit. So I kept digging. I'd get a little bit out and I'd try to go again, and it kept hitting. So I ended up having to like stack rocks underneath the tire just to jack the truck up more to get it to go off, and it would still hit. And then it starts raining out, and then it starts getting windy, and we're like, okay, this is not a good timing to be doing this. So we were just digging like crazy, and we don't have a shovel. Our shovel, we had like one of the little fold-up army ones or whatever, and that broke, so now we don't have a shovel. So we're like using rocks to like chip away at the road so we could get out of there. And finally, after like 5 minutes of, I guess, kind of panicking, we got it to get down it. So I'll put some pictures up here, hopefully, and then you can see what it looks like. But it's still stable. It's still really secure. We're not having we're not having any issues with it. But it was just kind of a bad situation that got worse with the weather. So we're like freaking out. And then of course once we get to the top, then the sun kind of came out, and which, oh well, we made a memory. But so I think we're just gonna have to find somebody that knows how to weld them. You can weld it a little bit, and it should be fine. But let's keep it simple. And keep exploring, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed my video. We'll see you next time. Bye.